one of the guys who was in a basement, he says, honestly, this, if you have a car, the body's good. When the engine gets sick, we have to look for the problem. But we kind of try and push the car a bit further before we take it to the garage. But when you take it to the garage, you'll get sorted. And that was his way of doing it, dealing with it. And this is the engine. And if we don't look after the engine, the body's, well, I could use the word, but I'll not use it. Sorry, I'm better to Dominick up here quickly. So this is Dominick Gallagher from Pieta House.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks very much for coming out. I work in, as almost said there, Pieta House, Northwest, which is based in Letterkenny. So we specifically deal with self-harm, suicide ideation, and anybody who's been bereaved by suicide. So covers quite a large range of stuff with that, and I suppose a big part of that is again, was saying, the mental health aspect of it. We, I suppose, unfortunately get to see people when they're in crisis. I suppose much like the units and the mental health teams, that's when people have gone too far. As I was saying, they've been pushing the car, but they haven't taken on to get fixed. So I suppose for us, we see this all the time. So I just kind of want to talk about really is, I suppose, why this is relevant to men, because it's quite a big aspect of the work that we do. So I suppose the big thing with mental health is it doesn't have any boundaries. It's not specific to one group, one age group, one race, nothing. It affects all of us. It's to define it, there's all kinds of wonderful definitions as to what is ill mental health. But it's really when somebody's going through repeated turmoil or distress, anxiety or depression, if it keeps coming back, if it keeps returning at regular intervals, and then it becomes, I suppose, quite consistent, it starts to affect people's lives and their daily function, that's when you have real ill mental health. So it can take many forms. I'm not going to go through all the different titles, but I suppose just to give an explanation as to how common it is, one of the statistics from this is the Ireland's Central Statistics Office. In 2016, there was recorded through the census a 28.7% jump in mental health issues. Now, just to put that in numbers, that means it meant that within Ireland there was 123,515 people who reported having mental health issues. And I suppose again, having worked in this field for quite some time, not everybody will report it. Not everybody, when they're doing surveys, will say, I have mental health issues. A lot of people still hide that. And again, within counselling, I suppose the big issues you would get is, as Aileen was saying, it's depression, it's anxiety. You're going to have PTSD, victims of abuse, addiction, gambling. There's all kinds of different issues, but anxiety and depression would be the most common. So again, on a bigger scale, what they would say in terms of ill mental health, right across the world, they would say there's on average 450 million people, which is huge. And then again, when you kind of draw that back down, that's a lot of people. The average, they would say, is 1 in 4 on average. And I suppose what we do know about people with mental health is that they live productive lives. The largest majority are out and about, and they're getting on with their day's work, they're looking after their families, they're doing all that kind of stuff, they're pushing through it. But when that stops for them, it's maybe at the end of the day or just at night time, a lot of those people are just crashing. And that's when it becomes a real issue for them. They're trying to hold that and then get back up the next day and push through it. Because it is very difficult to push through it. And one of the reasons, I suppose, a lot of people push through it is the stigma, which is a big thing. I'll come back to that in a minute. The other reason why, as I was saying, this is a big thing for men. Now this is again coming from, I suppose, the clients that I would work with. Because we're working with self-harm and suicide, the statistics for Ireland are quite high for male suicides. Pretty much every year since records began, 80% of completed suicides is male, and that number does not seem to be dropping. I think one example they have is the 4 years from 2008 to 2012, there was 2,137 Irishmen that died by suicide of all ages, and that, what they would say with that statistic is it doesn't include Irishmen that were perhaps working in other countries and also died by suicide. So it's very relevant, and that's one of the aims of this exhibition, is to really push that forward. Men need to be looking after their physical and their mental health. So as Eileen was saying there, there's different symptoms that kind of come with mental health. So the loss of sleep was definitely one of them. That's one of the first signs that kind of comes up. And the other one then is, I suppose, it's losing joy in the different things that they do. Sort of detaching themselves from people is also another one. I suppose it's one of those things, be mindful of this for yourselves and also for maybe any friends or family, that you kind of see that happening with them. As if you're sort of going, oh, they're just not themselves anymore, and it seems to kind of run on for more than a few days, it's maybe worth just trying to have a chat with them. And I know, as Eileen really eloquently put it, it's very much about talking, but encouraging people to talk. Especially, and again, men, because it's always been a big difficulty within psychotherapy and counselling, is getting men to engage. Now, once they do engage, it's great, they get on very well with it. You see significant changes in them and how they cope and how they get on with their lives afterwards. But up until that point, they were very much underneath that stigma of, kind of sign of weakness and all that kind of stuff, which just isn't true at all. It's just a sign that there's something not going right for people, So I suppose another sign is, again, as I was saying, it's when people, in terms of sports and exercise and stuff like that, what I've found, a lot of people who maybe were into exercise, and when the depression and anxiety kind of really starts to take hold, they back away from it. So it's just kind of looking for significant changes in people's, or your own sort of lifestyle and how you approach things. If you find that significant change, it's maybe worth checking it out, talking to somebody. I suppose another thing that Eileen touched on as well was stigma. Now, I've definitely found this to be a much bigger issue amongst male clients. They will struggle very hard to come in for therapy because of what people's going to think about them. How people are going to think that they're mad, that they're off their heads, that they're weak, they're this, that, and other thing. It's just not true. Because what a lot of male clients is, when you encourage them to talk to family and talk to friends, they're quite amazed by the support they get. Nobody judges them. Because so many of us have had some experience of either personally had their own issues with mental health or people close to us. So they don't judge and they will be very supportive. So it is very important to talk, to avoid that stigma, because it's one of the main reasons why a lot of people don't come in for therapy. So, and again, this is probably a bit of repetition, but it's really about looking after your mental health. And one of the things is connect to people. If you find you're kind of pulling back from friends or family because you don't feel that you're up to it or you're too anxious with meeting people, push yourself through that. Connect with people, stay in touch with them. Just talk to them, just say to them, look, I'm just not feeling the best these days. And again, it's not putting you in a corner where you feel like you can't talk to people. The other one, again, these are quite common. A lot of us psychotherapists would say the same thing. It's be active. And you don't have to be out doing all kinds of fantastic things. Just get out and about. Do something different for a change. Another one is really take notice of what's happening for yourself. If you don't feel well, if you don't feel right, if you don't feel comfortable in yourself, it's worth talking to somebody about that. So just taking notice, looking out for yourselves and each other, you know. So, and again, I suppose we're sort of saying the same thing. If you do find yourself in a place where you feel low, you feel you can't get out of it, you feel it's just too hard to just push on, talk to somebody. Whether it's family, friends, professionals, GPs, mental health teams, try somebody, and if you feel you don't get support that you need at that point, don't be afraid to. Who's doing it? Timed that well because we're nearly finished. So yeah, so just I suppose again, I strongly repeat that message of talk to somebody. If you do feel yourself kind of going off kilter in any way, is do not hold back on speaking to people. Again, family, friends, somebody you trust. And if the response you get, let's be honest, if it is a kind of a dismissive one, that kind of makes you feel, oh, I really shouldn't have said anything, do not take that as your one and only response. Try somebody else. The same if it's an organisational thing, if you're going to GPs, if you're going to therapists, something like that. If you don't feel it's helping, try somewhere else. You know, until you find the right thing that kind of fits and works for yourselves. Okay? So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dominic. And just for the gentleman who came in there, there must be a bus. Glorious. I thought there was going to be no end. Welcome, to the Patrick's exhibition. And we had Miss Daly McLean, who was up chatting. She was a physiotherapist, and she was chatting with the connection between physical and mental health. And just as she came in, that was Dominick Gallagher from Pieta House, which is support for suicide. The next speaker up will be Christine Green from Solace.